with me. When you go into your constituencies and into your community and you begin to disaggregate, you'll see that there are very serious differences among the young people bracket. Um, let me give you a shocker. I was at the hospital earlier this week and I met a lady taking care of a young girl. I said, "Why are you here with?" She said, "Well, I'm here with this 10-year-old girl because she has an infection." And I asked, "Of what nature?" And you know what the nature of it is. So that's 10 years and sexually active
Whoa.
and taken advantage of by an older man in the community. And then you go through, you can find myriad of examples of that, of young people for 4, 5, 6 years who haven't had a job. And all sorts of different stories, so that it is not that our young people are at one financial state or social state addressing the same problem. A lot of them have a multiplicity of problems. The other thing that we have to factor in very early is that the young people who we're talking about who have this problem getting into the insurance scheme and getting an interest into the insurance scheme are a sandwich generation in a sense, because many of them also living in households where their parents and in many cases their grandparents are still providing the means to a daily existence. So it is not only that they are concerned about their own personal welfare, but they have to be concerned in that their parents or grandparents can't provide them, as we would say, 3 square meals, much more to concentrate on the other issues of the day. So it's a very serious issue that we have to take on board.
All right. Who do you think? And this question is for either of you. Anybody could answer that. Who's responsible for the NIS in government? I mean, the PM, Camilo, who's the finance minister? Who's responsible?
The entire cabinet, but the buck stops with the prime minister. The minister of finance, Camilo Gonzalez, is the one who's on the bridge at the moment in that the national insurance scheme as a portfolio, it falls properly within the lap of the minister of finance. And so he has to take immediate responsibility. But understand that before him, there was the father, and now it is the son. And that gives me an opportunity to make a statement. It relates to your very opening remarks. On this particular matter, the Prime Minister, I think, is on record as saying the National Insurance Scheme or service, it used to be scheme, it's now service. Maybe it needs to revolt to a scheme because some people.
Well, I'm not sure because the way things are happening in this country, it has to be a scheme.
Yeah, so the National Insurance Service is the best show on road in town as an investment instrument. Well, you can't be fast and loose with it. And you got to be very careful because the national insurance provisions is not the best means of wealth management and wealth creation for young people. It is just that quite apart from the fact that we have high levels of unemployment, we also have ridiculously low wages. And so that many of our young people can't even begin to think of wealth creation, that is putting aside at a personal level money for the rainy day in various investment instruments and means. And to support what I'm saying, only last week we heard the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank saying within the Eastern Caribbean, St. Vincent has the lowest level of finance literacy. So that's a double whammy. Our young people don't know how to save, don't know how to look after themselves, don't have the means how to look after themselves, and they're not getting the hands up that should come to them by way of the government to make their future more secure. Simultaneously, having the gratification that their parents and grandparents are at this moment also fairly well secured in the social security provisions.
If I could add to that, Gypsy, the whole situation of the NIS, listen, as Major said a while ago, so many, 85% of the people in this country depend on the NIS. They have nothing else when they retire. So the sustainability and the proper and effective management of the NIS is not just critical, but it is absolutely necessary. And what we have seen, I mean, the evidence is there to show that since the Unity Labour Party administration came into office, Unity Labour Party came into office as government, and they've been warned, they have been warned by Mr. Eustace on many occasions. Make sure you exercise prudent management of this important social mechanism. And they ignored it, they ignored it, they ignored it. Even several actuarial reports prior to the 11th one, the most recent one, proposed and suggested many recommendations for reform. And they kept dilly-dallying and pussyfooting and postponing until now it has gotten to crisis stage. They created this mess.
If you allow me, use those favorite phrases that must be wrong until God come for you.
Exactly.
That's his favorite statement. It must be wrong until God come for you.
And listen, if to come back and tie this back in with the whole issue of youth, I know some young people, they don't understand the importance of the NIS or the importance of social security generally in terms of their existence, their lives. As young people, you feel indomitable. Oh, I can do anything, no problem. When I was young, I wasn't thinking about what's gonna happen to me when I retire.
Correct.
I wasn't even thinking about what kind of job I'm gonna have when I was in primary school and secondary school. But the fact of the matter is that it is very important, because the way we are made as human beings, at some point we will not be able to continue to work and be physically as active as in our productive years. So something like an NIS, a National Insurance Service, any sort of social protection, social security mechanism, is to ensure that if we live long enough to get to that point, we are able to live. And as Major said a while ago, right now we have some situations where you have young people living in homes and still having to depend on their mothers and their fathers and older people in that household, many of whom depend on their NIS and their social security.
So then why is it that the nation is so quiet on an issue that is vital to our being or well-being? Why? Because Fitz, I know that in Grenada, the issue of pension reform was one of the issues that really threw the other party out of office, That's in Grenada.
It's going to happen in
France. In France as well. You understand? People kick.
Hit the road.
Yeah, because really and truly, what they were saying is that, we put in our contributions, and you can't tell us in France that you're going to now raise the pension age, the retirement age. And they got upset. The thing about it is that, hey, in St. Vincent and Grenadines, and I know some people might get a little bit upset with me for saying that, we're a little bit docile. We're docile people of the docile nation, because really and truly with something like that, because I will tell you straight up, I want my pension, and if I don't get it, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Well, here the rub now, and taking off from what my colleague said about the high unemployment rate among the youth and the underemployment among the youth. That's the crux of the problem, because the NIS at the moment depends on two feeders to be successful. One, the contributions from people who are members of the scheme. And secondly, the investments of those contributions by the scheme. I keep saying scheme instead of service. All right? So let's slow it down and get this. It depends on the contributions and the investments of those contributions. That's how it works. Fifth statistic is revealing that some people are not even on the starters line because they're working.
Correct.
Period. So they ain't even reached the stage to talk about contributing. So that's a dilemma. Now compound that by the fact that the challenge that faces the NIS at the moment is that expenditure, the money that they pay out to pensioners, is already at the stage more than the money that is coming in from the contributions. Or we will say locally, the dance can't pay for the light. The understanding is that you will only get out of it if you have more contributions, which in essence means what? You have to get more young people working. And if you don't get more young people working and becoming members of the scheme and hopefully working and with higher levels of pay, because that matters too in terms of what is the extent of the contributions, then you're dead in the water. So there's an urgency, there's an immediacy here that we must fix the problem among our young people.
Correct.
Gypsy, let me jump in here also. Look, we have to keep pounding home the fact that the NIS is where it is because of very, very poor management by the. I'm not talking about the management of the NIS in terms of the professional staff. I'm talking about the overall, the macro management of the mechanism by government. And here's what I'm talking about. Now, as May just said, if you don't have enough contributions coming in, you have to beef that up. The most effective way to do that is to employ more people, put more people on the service so that they can make more contributions. And if you are going to invest some of these contributions, the investment must be prudent. But this administration has not done that. For example, they took $72 million out of NIS money to give to national properties, $15 million to invest in Holiday Inn Hotel. Since they started giving this $500 every year to students who pass 5 subjects or more, that amount of money coming out of the NIS has totaled close to 20 million. So we're talking about over $100 million of very poor. And mind you, I'm not saying that, helping the students, helping out national properties and so on, all of those things are necessary, but not with NIS money.
Correct.
Not with NIS money.
Correct.
And we cannot. This is what we're saying here in the NDP. We will make sure that those things do not happen when we get into government. We will manage the NIS in a much more prudent and a much more sensible and sustainable way.
And we all know that when the New Democratic Party was in office, NIS was a strong service. We're not going to say scheme, a strong service. And it only took the ULP to destroy what Vincentians built over the years.
Well, the point that Fitz is making in that regard is that much of what is obtained now with the NIS and the challenge that is faced is a consequence of contributory negligence by the government, which means that the bad policies eventually became bad business practice. And now he spoke a while ago there correctly that how do you find yourself as a government, for example, lending millions of dollars to national properties? By any examination, the young people need to know, because let us keep bringing them in the equation. National properties cannot qualify by an accounting as being a going concern, meaning that it has enough financial resources to keep itself on an ongoing basis. And how national properties came by these large loans is tantamount to running a Ponzi scheme. I have to speak about it repeatedly. Namely, government takes government lands, it gives government lands to national properties as security. National properties takes the lands that was given to the government, goes up to NIS and says, look, I want some money to borrow. Here's land as security. NIS doesn't examine the business model of national properties. Say you have a cash flow of how you want to pay it back. It gives you the money on the strength of the land that you provide for security. This is government land in the first place. It doesn't finish there. National properties now goes down to, it was then the National Commercial Bank, takes out all of that cash, which is in a sense crowded out an economic term on the private sector, who should have been able to have those monies to do private sector investments, and takes that money that they borrow from NS, gives it to another corporation, IADC, International Airport Development Corporation. The IADC then takes that money and puts it into the Argyle Airport. So the Argyle Airport time ain't gonna pay for itself. I would suspect anything for the next 30, 40 years it will not pay for itself. So clearly, that money ain't coming back. It ain't coming back.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, the young people will have to mine the airport.
Oh, wow.
Because you'll have to find government borrowings, and it's already happening, to resurface the airport, which is not even 5 or 7 years old. You have to come back and get another loan and financing from the parliament. It's like feeding something that is not even sustaining itself, you know. So it's a serious quagmire, and the young people must hold the government to the
accountable
and hold them accountable. A word that they don't want to hear. To say, what have you done with our monies?
And that is why, you know, the 11th actuarial report talks about the investment committee of the NIS and has made recommendations regarding that particular aspect of the operations of the NIS, because obviously the investment decisions have proven to be very, very ineffective, not sustainable. But it's because of the willy-nilly approach of the government with regards to appointing people on the investment committee. For example, the actual report now is recommending that, you know, you have at least two persons, two independent persons who are qualified and professional with regards to investment and finance and so on. But the fact of the matter is that we have gotten to this point because of how the government has been operating, and the young people must be concerned about this, because now you're going to find yourself they're going to have to be making more contributions, higher contributions, retiring at an older age, paying more taxes, more than likely not getting any higher wages, all because of the quagmire that this government has created with regards to our economic status. And these young people must be concerned, although so many of them are unemployed. We in the NDP we have created hope, and we will continue to create hope for these young people. But this problem has to be addressed and fixed immediately. Otherwise, the problem is still going to be encountered by the young people who, when we get into government and we get them working and so on, it's going to be a challenge because of what is happening right now.
You see, I know you have a question.
No. I was just reminding the listeners that it's also an interactive program, so it's for them to call in as well. But go right ahead, Major League.
When you started the program tonight, you made the important comment that you were worried as a young person.
And I am still worried. I am worried. I do not know about, you know, our PRO. But she should be worried, and I know that all of us are worried.
Yeah, but okay. So you say you should be worried because you don't know if you will get back
a pension.
If you'll get a pension.
Anything.
But here's what's worse about it. And I'm sharing statistics here from the NIS itself. The pay-as-you-go rate in 2079. Right? That's 50-something years from now. You might say, for me, it doesn't matter. But for a person who is 18 or 20 or 2079, it's something that they will experience, you know.
Yeah.
Listen, at that stage, the contributions from their salary to keep the NS going will be around 24 to 34%.
Wow.
Imagine if you are a member of a program that every month, a quarter of what you work for must go to that institution. Only 3/4 is left for you to keep yourself going. That's a serious crisis.
Indeed.
Serious crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And it is amplified by the fact. You see, the investments, if even you top investments level, no. You're getting maximum rate of returns on the money that you invest in. The NS still can't save itself, you know. it must improve and increase the contributions. Fundamentals.
Yeah.
You have to put people
To work.
Yeah. So you could dance and spin it and twist it and turn it, but you have to put people to work. Am I correct, Fitz?
Exactly, of course, and that is the bottom line. We cannot sustain the level of unemployment that we've sustained over the last 20 years. It's almost suicidal to imagine that we're gonna continue down this line. And obviously, this administration, I don't want to sound like if I'm knocking them, but that is the reality. I am a Vincentian with kids, with a family, and we feel it just the same. This administration has demonstrated their inability or their incapability of dealing with the unemployment problem, particularly among young people.
But because they have not created that enabling environment for them.
Look, for example, a brilliant program that they brought out. And some people say, Bambi, you mustn't give the government credit, but be that as it may, I beg to differ on that. And the Prime program, which they implemented in 2020, I thought was a brilliant opportunity for us to improve and to create that enabling environment. And what did they do with it? They politicized it to the point now where I think this year's estimate has in what? $2 million or $200,000 or something like that for Prime. We don't know where the Prime money is going to, who's benefiting from it, how many businesses have been created from the program, how many persons have been employed by these businesses. I mean, they just absolutely do not have a clue how to deal with economic development and with the unemployment problem that we have here in particular. In fact, they are the ones who have orchestrated and they are the authors of this unemployment problem that we have right now, the creators of it.
When do you expect a plan from the government? When?
Well, I'm not holding my breath. But at the last consultation that the NIS had with the stakeholders, that's upstairs of the NIS office a few weeks back, the Minister of Finance, in addressing the problem, said that come 2024, they will be making form proposals with respect to resolving the problems of the National Insurance Service. But if you go through this year's 2023 report by the same minister, you would not come away with a conclusion that the NS has a problem that has to be solved here and now. They were procrastinating on it. In fact, Dr. Friday has made the point repeatedly in their 2020 manifesto. They said, put them back into government and life will be better immediately with the National Insurance Service. The truth is that life is much worse now than it was in 2020. And our young people must understand, because they need to be punished for this, politically at the polls. Let them not spare punches for it. Because they are the ones who have squandered, or better put, mortgage the future of our young people by their reckless behavior. And now, as the captain in the song, they have little to show for what they have done with the people's money. And young people have a right to be worried because there's nothing on the horizon. Nothing, absolutely nothing, that will speak to increasing and improving the employment ratio in the country at the rate that would make the service satisfactory. And that's only going to come with a change of government and a change of approach to macroeconomic development.
Yeah.
And so if you're waiting and holding your breath for that plan, you might as well say when Ndp comes into office.
It's very troubling. It's actually frightening, but go ahead, Vince.
You asked about when can we expect a plan from this government. They can bring a plan. I'll tell you, for example, we have a plan, what they call it, the National Socio-Economic Development Plan from 2013 to 2025. Last budget, I focused my presentation on that. They have not been able to accomplish in any significant way any of the objectives outlined in that plan. But this year, we approved $200,000 to start developing a new plan. And the existing plan, which is about to expire, there's nothing to show from it. So when you talk about plan, I have no confidence in them. And the fact of the matter is that even if we come up with the most grandiose of reforms for the NIS, this government right now should not be entrusted with the responsibility to manage a reformed NIS, because they will kill it and they will crush it and they will mash it up and mismanage it just the same way.
No, I take no pleasure out of this, because as one who shadows the Ministry of National Security for the New Democratic Party, in the year 2001, 2002, 3, 4, 5, 6, first 5 years of the Unity Labour Party government, you didn't have the apprehensions and of fear of your public safety in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. You didn't have that. So when we talk about NIS as a social security measure, which means you're down the years comfort, don't lose sight of the fact that it also impacts you today. Because what has happened now in the last 5 years, I spoke about the first 5, you didn't have that. But in the last 5 years, what has been the characteristic feature among young people? Death and more death. A rising crime rate, where we in 2023 are likely to break the numbers for 42 last year. So there's a correlation. No work, no future, short-term activity, crime, violence, and a decreased quality of life. Young people need to have hope, and that hope will only come from the Democratic Party on the Dr. Friday.
Well, I'm noticing that the phone lines are going crazy. So, callers, you can always interact with us. The numbers to call 4565967. That's the local line. The WhatsApp is 497-6423 and Magic Jag 718-734-5615. While we wait on the callers, well, let's go to the lines. Hello, good night, caller. Hello, good night.
Hello, good night.
Good night, caller.
Yes, good night. On the air, right?
Yes, you're on air.
Okay, right. The major, and Mr. Fitz, good night.
Good night, good night.
Yes, Major, I call because I have a little issue with you. You have a way of dropping things and leave it. The last time you were on radio, you spoke about the weaknesses of our institutions. And I thought that you needed to expand on that, because I think we have severe institution weaknesses in St. Vincent, and for some time now, it seems that we have been losing financial institutions. And I am even worried because recently, with the dismissal of the CEO at Gecko, you have the issue of the NIS basically failing. You have we don't even understand what is taking place with the banks in St. Vincent.
Building a loan.
There's activities left, right, and center that the people don't really understand what it is.
And the whole major responsible.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, Gecko, I don't think a satisfactory explanation was offered to Gecko membership as to what actually went on at Gecko, and that is a big institution, and heaven help us if that should fall by the wayside, and we must be concerned as to what is taking place. So you need to deal with this issue of institutional weaknesses. Not only are we seeming to lose financial institutions, we're losing businesses one after the next. And tonight now, you drop and just leave it again That is the whole idea that we are at the bottom of the ladder when it comes to financial intelligence.
Well, why you saying that? I'm limited in what I could say in response to specific questions before me, and I'm sharing space. So
yeah.
I can't be as expansive as I probably would.
You're going to have to pick that. You're going to have to pick that up another time. I mean,
no, but let me just give you a quick and dirty response to some of what you said. In the 20 years that the government has been in office, all of the international banks have left St. Vincent and the Grenadines. What was Barclays Bank, CIBC Bank, First Caribbean Investment Bank, Royal Bank of Canada, Royal Bank of Trinidad and Tobago, Scotia Bank, they all left St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Why? Because those companies' management are measured by the bottom line returns, and St. Vincent has become not sufficiently attractive to those business investments. We have a similar thing that's taking place with a lot of other business organizations in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I've spoken at length, for example, I don't know how young you are, but you're young enough to remember that almost every business enterprise in Kingstown was Aaron Eustace and Sons, Irish Charles and Sons, G.W. Frank and Sons, this and Sons, that and Sons. Well, they ain't no sons anymore. Maybe they should have named them after the daughter, and they might have been alive today. But they have literally disappeared, and we have a different landscape in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But all of that comes back to the fundamental that it speaks about. If you don't have your economic foundations in place, if you don't have an economy, then you're going to get in trouble. You spoke about the situation of GECO. Now that is clear. Maybe people don't listen to us enough. If you present a budget every year to which your recurrent income is not sufficient to take care of your recurrent expenditure, and that has been the government situation since 2008, then you have to beg, steal, and thief and borrow to stay alive. And and it got worse when you lost the National Commercial Bank. You no longer have a piggy bank to which you can go through. So you begin to wring the hands of the people at the NS, wring the hands of the people favorable to you in the credit unions, wring the hands of other commercial banks. And that's how you begin to mind yourself, because you're living beyond your means. And what is happening in St. Vincent now is a straightforward reflection of that. You can't go to a shop with $10 in your pocket and walk out with $20 worth of goods. And the government has been doing that over and over because nobody wouldn't put a handcuff on them.
And with all of that, we have low financial literacy. And just to read a little excerpt from the survey, it says that, and this is in St. Vincent, it finds that we don't save, we don't know how to invest, we can't handle, majority of us can't handle any kind of financial shocks, and the young people just buying things, and they buy what they want, they choose to buy what they want, and for the other things to finance their needs, they are begging their family and friends and government for the needs. I mean, a survey revealing that, we need to boost the education of young people, and maybe that's one of the ways that the education revolution should have served us, so that we don't have this kind of thing, because it have the effects of this, and of course they are succumbing to scams, is what the report is saying. High interest rates in making their purchases. They don't understand that the effective interest rates is high, and getting into all kind of debt traps. We can't have this. I mean, this can't be good for us. This can't be good for us, and we are the worst of the lot. This can't be good for us.
And in addition to that, I think, when you asked earlier about the weak institutions, and particularly financial institutions, remember, in a small vulnerable economy such as ours, where government's role is way more pronounced than, let's say, in a United States, down here we don't have a lot of fiscal space because of the injudicious behavior of the government with regards to borrowing, and it's also connected to the whole issue of the institution. Our tax administration, for example, is very, very weak. You know, so you find when you look at your government spending relative to tax revenue and other types and debt or borrowed revenue, so to speak, that creates a huge problem. And what you find happening is that the government, in attempting to wiggle its way around, oftentimes manipulates the financial institutions and other relevant institutions. You know.
But
Well,
Cole, I
what
don't know
little we
how much
have
time you're
left,
going
we
to
have to
spend the
save them.
program.
I would continue to listen.
No, yeah, but could you spend a minute with me? Half?
Yes, of course.
I want to share this with you. One of the gravest atrocities committed by this government to young people today, which dampens the possibility of the private sector taking off more of the load, is what they did to Bigger Bigs. When they destroyed Bigger Bigs business, they sent a message to the financial institutions that don't lend people money who are not supporters of the governing political party. So that as it stands in St. Vincent and the Grenadines now, if you have a business proposal and you take it to a commercial bank and you pass all of the means tests, accounting and financing and operational tests, in flying colors, before you leave the bank manager's office, he or she is more likely going to ask you, but which party you support? Because your project by itself, well thought out as it is not a sufficient grounds for you to be successful in business. Because the public sector, government, which is the engine of the economy, will not support you. You think Bigger Bigs should not be here now supporting blocks for the $600 million port development? You think Bigger Bigs should not be in the forefront now of, well, we normally say construction is a leading portfolio. You shouldn't be hiring a lot of block makers out there to exporting blocks to Caribbean countries. You should not be in the forefront of exporting aggregate to Guyana. That is the fast and growth economy in the region. I just put them out as an example. But what do you do with them? You shoot them down. You did the same thing to Marcus the Freitas. And many others will tell you that they've suffered the same fate. So the government is not business friendly, in particular when it is not supportive of a regime that don't know the A from the elbow.
Can't be good.
Can't be good. And young people need to take those messages and take them very seriously. You need to change the climate.
Yep. And you know, not too long ago, I kept referring, caller, to the World Bank had done an analysis of ease of doing business, and there were some problems with the methodology, and I think they eventually pulled it. But there's some important lessons that we learned from that initial analysis. One of them being St. Vincent has been identified as one of the most difficult places in the world to do business. Our ease of business ratio, however, whatever parameters you want to use,
metrics,
it's extremely difficult to do business here. As Major just said, not he used the example of Bigger Bigs, but any young person, you know, it's almost impossible to find business startup requirements which are conducive to the opening and operating of any type of business here.
I thought well, I guess you might not be, as a citizen, you might not be able to understand all aspects because you don't have all of the information. But at one point, I thought that financial institutions present here also did not support sufficiently small business enterprise.
But let me share something along the line you're going with, so that I bring it back to the NIS. The National Insurance Service at the end of 2019 has $488.5 million of reserves. Right? Let's call it $500 million in reserves. How much of that money in the NIS reserves is targeted to creating wealth for the people who must contribute to the national insurance scheme, to drive an export-led economy, And I started, that's why I was impressed and when we were there at the last consultation, Fitz, when we were told that Professor Theodore from the University of West Indies made a recommendation that some $10 million or 10%, I can't remember if it was the millions or the percent, of the NIS monies must be directly and specifically targeted at creating jobs and opportunities to feed the NIS itself. And that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, because then create any jobs, they get the contributors.
They get the contribution. But are they doing that?
Yeah.
So when GPSC asked about before as plans, that makes sense to us in the New Democratic Party.
That is how you're going to sustain the fund. You can't be taking out more than you're putting in. It's simple.
That is off, Agent.
Well, they're putting in any in the first place. It's not the people's money they're borrowing.
Precisely.
Well, thank you so much, caller, for your contribution. Remember, you could call us 4565967 Magic Jag 71-873-45615 and WhatsApp 497-6423. Let's take another caller. Are you willing to take another caller?
Sure.
All right, let's go. Hello, good afternoon, caller. I'm not sure what's going on there.
Because it's still in the evening.
No. I should actually see the call. I'm actually seeing the call because the person is actually calling on and the lines are up. So I'm not sure what the problem is.
Can we Gypsy, while we're doing that, we cannot overemphasize this unemployment problem among young people. The problem cannot be overemphasized. And if you look at the dynamics now and the connectivity between the education system, the job market, and opportunities for young people as they currently exist, we cannot divorce one from the other. I don't know if you want to try to take this.
Yes,
call?
let's take this call. Good night, caller.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening to the wonderful lady and the esteemed gentleman tonight. And this is indeed a worthwhile, a worthy and timely subject. Explaining the nexus between the youth and the problems, the critical problems that the NIS is encountering. And I hope that our younger population has been paying attention to what was outlined by Major and Fitz, ably assisted by, the lovely Gypsy. And I just wanted to, because it occurred to me, and I use the word nexus. And I'm going to say this. We are at an existential stage when it comes to not just the NIS, but the socioeconomic future of our young population, even our older folks. And the reason why I say that is, you guys spoke about unemployment. It is a known fact that St. Vincent and the Grenadines has the dubious distinction of having the highest youth unemployment in the entire Caribbean. I checked with the World Bank estimates around 2001, 2002. Right? We are ranked number 7 in the world as of that report. And this is something that we should never take lightly. But compounding that issue is the fact that the NIS has been used as a virtual piggy bank, irresponsibly so, by this ULP regime. And The actuarial report, the 11th, made several recommendations, including increasing the retirement age and also increasing the withholdings or contributions. Now let's look at this in the broader economic sense. We have a stagnant economy as compared to our OECS neighbors. And I would just quickly allude to something that Fitz said earlier.
But could I interrupt you in 1 minute?
Yes.
Because
yes, sir.
While in the New Democratic Party, we have to keep our powder dry in our responses in 2024 when this NIS debate comes up. I think Dr. Friday would not be afraid for the public to know and understand what is his position and where he's guiding us in the New Democratic Party.
Right.
The National Insurance pension is a pension. It's not a death benefit. So
Exactly.
we don't look favorably to pushing that age further and further to the age 70 and 72 when people go to the great beyond, you know.
I'm happy
It is
that
a pension, and you must get it at a point in time in life when you can make use of it and make some sense of it. Not to buy a casket or to pay for your medical bills and your problems or to advance some to the funeral home. And at the rate at which they're going to, they're pushing the pension receipt further and further back, then there will be no quality of life for the pensioner.
Absolutely.
So you're going to find it's going to be an extremely hard sell. I'm saying this to the young people, for us to find favor of pushing back the years to which you should receive a pension to some ungodly and some unreasonable state at which they can't make use of the money.
Exactly.
I just wanted to put down that marker.
Well said. Well said,
I want to put it down on behalf of Dr. Friday.
And I'm pretty sure those who are listening would have appreciated you setting out that positional approach as it relates to what the NDP would do when they assume government. But going back to what I was saying, it is more than alarming, because remember, in 2001 when these guys took office, they decided to steer our economy and our agrarian-based economy away from that traditional aspect into the service industry, i.e. in terms of tourism and so on. And Fitz said the tourism and agriculture sector only contributes to 20% of our GDP.
Less than that.
Less than that. When I checked Grenada in 2019, tourism alone was 55% of their GDP because they have a better tourism product. But notwithstanding that, as I said before, we have a moribund economy. We have some of the highest VAT in the Eastern Caribbean. So I'm talking about spending power. Right? So if this government continues on the current track, the current trajectory as it relates to the NIS, right? And they take the recommendation of the actuarial report. It means that when people, the younger folks, start to work, and I ain't talking about underemployment yet, their spending power will be drastically reduced. In other words,
I mean, their disposable income.
Yes, the economic burden would be put on our younger generation. They would have to take home less and wait longer to receive a retirement benefit. But let's talk about underemployment. We have seen over the past several years, maybe even longer, that whenever there is an announcement of road work being available, we have seen a higher than usual percentage of younger people competing for road work. Can you think of a better example of underemployment? What about the YES program? They are not being paid a living wage. So these are all of the compounding issues. And Major made an important
understand
point.
that that means $25 per day or thereabout, $5 to get to the work, to and from the work, and maybe $10 to pay for a meal while you get back home. So it's a net gain.
Exactly. So these are issues that I hope our younger population are paying attention to. Because this is an existential crisis, as Major said earlier. We want a system, a national insurance service that remains ever solvent. In the prescient words of the Honorable Arnim Eustace.
Till God comes to call.
Exactly. And I remember watching briefly, watching the forum that was online. And the lady who did the presentation, she made such a salient point when she said national insurance services are pay-as-you-go ventures.
That's right.
They are always to be cash solvent. And she spoke about the difference between investing in capital expenditure rather than recurrent expenditure.
Cash is king.
Exactly.
Those were her words. Cash is king. It's the lifeblood of an organization.
Exactly. And so in wrapping up, I would say, I have listened at length to presentations by the Honorable Fitzbramble, the Honorable Major Leacock, Dr. Friday, and they have laid out a comprehensive programmatic economic approach that lends towards uplifting the youth and the general population of St. Vincent and the Grenadines into a position where they would be financially capable of taking care of themselves. What this government has been focusing on for the past 20-something years is creating this humongous public sector and ignoring private sector investment. But whenever they do private sector investment, and I was reminded of something that Fitz said, we talk about responsible fiscal management on the part of the NIS. And that lady who did the presentation, she went to speak about risk management within national insurance services. So Fitz said that tourism and agriculture contributes less than 20% of our total annual GDP. Yet, this government saw it fit to approach the NIS to finance a hotel. And where does the hotel sit? Smack dab in the tourism industry that has been underperforming. Is that prudent fiscal management? What was the risk assessment done by this government in conjunction with the NIS board, investment board, in terms of actually justifying using people's pension money to invest into a hotel?
Okay.
And Carla, just quickly to add to what you're saying, it just shows that this government really doesn't have any interest in economically empowering people, because a simple solution to that problem or to that particular opportunity, let me put it this way, an opportunity could have been created for our Vincentian people. All they had to do was sell shares. Shares, and the $15 million could have been easily raised to invest into the hotel. And as you said, you manage your risk, you're creating an opportunity for people to earn, to own wealth, and you're staying away from the NIS reserves,
Exactly.
And those are the kinds of practical and creative ideas that the NDP will undertake. This government has demonstrated that they can't, they don't want to, they can't,
Man, they have so beleaguered this country's economy, and I keep making the point ad nauseum that when the NDP takes government, it's not going to take a 5-year term to correct all of the misdeeds of this government, fix the broken institutions and so on, It's going to take at least 15 years plus.
But I'm promising you from the night NDP government life gets better. So me asking the young people to wait 15 years. And hold me to that. The night you vote NDP government, your life gets better.
Yeah, because
change right away.
Yeah, well, because we have deliverables.
Well, hope springs eternal, and the NDP is bringing
a
message.
Thanks, buddy, from the United States of the EU.
Absolutely. And I realize that you recognize my voice.
Always. We both do.
Excellent program. Excellent program. All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Gypsy, as you're bringing on the caller, and go ahead, bring the caller in.
Oh, all right. Yes.
All right. Have a good one.
Let me try what's going on. Wait. Oh, well, the caller left us. So then you could always try us back. I see the person calling again. So let's see what's happening. Hello, good night, caller. Are you hearing me? Hello? Yeah, there's something that is not working well with, but we can take another caller from the Magic Jag. So, good night, caller.
Yes, good night, everyone. Good night, the Major, and good night, Chris, and good night, Miss Gypsy.
Good night. Good night.
If I catch the voice right.
Ambassador, you still my friend?
Huh?
You still my friend, Ambassador?
Yes, man, I'm still a friend. Nobody can change
this
that.
Morning, when I walk past Keith, I was going to make a complaint, but I said, leave it till again.
But no, man, you know how we roll, man. I'll go to war. I go to war anytime with you as my general, man. All right, man?
Just teasing.
All right, man. But I gotta smile tonight because I'm wondering, why do we talk a language that is not in the ULP leadership, the other members' vocabulary? We're talking about empowering the Vincentian people with business acumen. We have that day, my brethren. There is nobody in the ULP that could carry out those kind of policies that you brothers are discussing here tonight.
Empowering people. Huh?
They don't have it. They cannot empower the Vincentian people because they don't know how to grow an economy. Yeah. When you talk about the INS, when they could take care of your INS, my brethren, and carry it in such a way that it would just end up where the funeral homes in St. Vincent are the beneficiaries. Come on. The INS was not meant to be a death benefit. Other than that, you will just go and you will join one pan. Vincentian, come on, man. When you talk about the economy, we know, and this is something that we need to ask the Vincentian people. When you're talking about the economy, question yourself, Vincentian. When we had agriculture as the basis, as the foundation of the growth of our economy, fisheries, and we use tourism as a trickle down, because it has to be trickle down, because there are people coming in. We can't depend on people pocketbook, because if the economy in those countries where our tourism, where tourism coming from, if it downturn, we're gonna feel the effect. So we cannot depend on tourism. You don't put your belly in the next man's pocketbook, because if he tell you no, you go hungry. That is why the NDP went to the process where we have call diversification projects in agriculture, where I was a part of the crop units where we was grafting mango trees and all these things. Is to offset, is to make sure in case of anything we could go into the same thing that Major just talk about.
But I want all young people to listen to you carefully, Ambassador Mike. I actually called him because I have the privilege. Because you see, we have to take time out and explain the difference. It's not either or that you must have agriculture or tourism. They play their part. But it is fundamental to your vision of economic development.
Yes.
Tourism by its nature is a top-down approach to economic development.
Trickle down, yes, it's trickle down.
Those who already have capital.
Yes.
But agriculture is a bottom-up approach in all parts to economic development, because you are bringing a larger percentage of our people to the productive sector.
So we
And
get a
with
middle
an
class out
experience that
of
we
it.
have had
We built the middle class.
historically.
This is how we develop.
And that's
This is
how we
develop the middle class.
as Biden them will say, that's how we grow the middle class.
Yes, my
And that's the
brethren.
problem of our economy. The middle class is disappearing to what Ralph
We
called the
remove it.
genteel poor.
So we would not have any village.
Exactly.
Whenever you talk about your village community, we would not have any village community economic development
And if
because there is
they
nothing to
don't
carry the
grasp
money
that,
there.
if they don't grasp that, then the NS by itself will also suffer because the feeder,
It must suffer.
the feeder
Where
is
the money
not
gonna
there
come from?
to the
Where
contributions.
the money gonna come from?
Exactly.
Where the money gonna come from when a majority of the tourism money is leaving the country?
Leakage.
You need something to move along the village communities, and it's only agriculture could do that.
Only agriculture could do that.
This is and when you look at the Grenadines,
Creative arts.
when you look at the Grenadines, we have so many different Grenadines islands. We're talking about economic development now. We look at the importation bill for food in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. You won't come tell me with all these chicken plants that we have this chicken feed and this and this. Somebody can say, well, we're going to use one of those Grenadines Island or something and check up a turkey farm over there because we have the feed. Because we could reduce our intake with food supply in the areas of poultry. There are things that we could do, but there is nobody in the ULP thinking like that. So we have to move them. There is no other way, Vincentian. How there's no other way, and this is something else that to look about when you talk about agriculture. Yes, you have a government in St. Vincent and Grenadines destroying arable lands. You're destroying arable lands. And nothing is wrong with building
Houses.
hotels and everything, but something we cannot do at the expense of your belly, which is our food.
Correct.
Any government that reduce your food supply is planning to starve you and make you a consumer nation. That is why you're building the port there. What are you going to build the port for? You're going to use it to ship out stuff? Or are you going to use it to just import? Because we have the Aga airport there, and I don't see no cargo ship. I'm watching right now, I'm standing here. I'm watching about couple pilots from a Taiwanese cargo. Come on, Vincentian. What are you using the Aga airport for? No cargo leaving there. Send to Westwood for me. Tell me, send to Westwood for me. As Major would say, build you something. Send me some mango nectar. All those mangoes that up in major constituency we call sweet side. Dropping and spoiling. You want the streets in the mango season, but you say that you've got a mango like rain. Send me some soursop juice. Come on, man. There's more things that we could do to make the economically empower people instead of going and
That's the word.
going and sit down in the Prime Minister's office for him to come out and put your name on a list. Have a good night, brothers.
Yeah, good night.
We appreciate your contribution, caller. You also going to say something, Fitz?
Yeah, Gypsy, I know we have a lot of questions and so on, but you know, as the caller mentioned, was talking, and it just dawned on, well, not just dawned on me, but I didn't get a chance to expound a little bit on this too. Now you're looking at a recommendation to increase the contributions, okay? But you haven't, I have not read or heard any projections to increase the number of contributors. You understand? So what you're going to find happening now, you're going to have a situation where more money is going to be coming out of people's salary to go towards NIS. Less people are going to, well, you're still going to have the same or higher level of unemployment. For example, you have 700 community college kids graduating every year. And I made a breakdown the other day, but long story short, out of those 700, you're going to have at least, if we go based on the unemployment figures right now, you're going to have close to 350 of those being at home with nothing to do, having to depend on their mothers and fathers and grandmothers and aunts and everybody to take care of them. Now they're going to have less disposable income. The people in the household now who have to take care of these youngsters coming out of community college with nothing to do, they have less money to spend because you're taking out more for NIS. It's serious. This is serious. But we have not heard the government come with any plan to say, well, we are going to create opportunities for mass employment of the young people so that one, we're going to have more contributors, and two, you're easing the pressure of the parents and the grandparents and the other people who work in. Those are the kinds of things, those are the kinds of solutions we have to approach and try to employ. But this government clearly, again, clearly have demonstrated and continues to demonstrate their inability so to do. And that is the difference between them and the New Democratic Party.
Let's take another caller. Hello, good night.
Hello, good night.
Everywhere I go,
Good night.
in this
Miss
blessed
Dixie and
land,
Mr. Leacock
I
and
feel that
Mr.
there's
Bramble.
no
Good night.
Night.
Good night.
I want to say something. All those young people where they have on poor relief. I want to know how if they pay NOS or that little money they get in.
Well, I can't give you a proper answer if you're waiting for an answer from me, but a lot of it is not at the same time, it's also not as straightforward because there are a number of young people who are on poor relief for reasons that don't always meet the eye. They may have a physical or the challenge, or they might be in a family circumstance which cause them to be on the breadline and have to be taken care of, and a number of other considerations. But if the straight question is, we can't willy-nilly put people on the NS who are not contributing. So that
I want to know if they pay in NS. That would be hard for them later days.
Well, okay. Okay.
They have to know what they're doing, eh?
Yes.
Okay. I think the NS comes out of an earned income.
Time to get rid of them.
Yeah. You
Okay then.
Yeah,
good night.
You see this.
Thanks. Good night, caller.
Thank you, caller.
Yeah.
We ain't getting a chance.
Yeah, that's all right. There's a caller there?
Yes, we have a caller. Hello, good night.
Everywhere I go, in this blessed land, I feel that there's no hope for young Vincentians. From north to the south, from country to town, is the same bandwagons, the same old my songs. We watching those in charge, they lost by the way. They locking off the youth, can't hear what we say. They think that we dumb and don't understand that this country needs some men with some plan. Prime money come, prime money go. What have they done for SPG? Tonight, it is the greetings I bring to you from the constituency of East St. George and the constituency of East Kingston as well, Mr. Bramble. I wouldn't forget
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You're biased.
You better don't leave out East Kingston.
You're biased.
I am very concerned as a young individual, not only about myself, but the younger generations behind of me. I say this because of three things: the NIS, the unemployment rate, and the ways of how, I want to say ways, the financial institution. Every 3 to 6 months, every 3 to 6 months, I might not be correct, but every 3 to 6 months, there is a brand new bank in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And it speaks volumes. It speaks volumes for a young person. He or she has to know how to save his money. It also comes with trust. But I also call to mention this. I have hope, not for today. I have hope, not for tomorrow, but I have hope for my future and my future generation under the NDP. I must also say this as well. I must thank the NDP for always believing and always thinking about the young people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Because without the young people, there is not a society. A lot of us need to realize that without young people, there is no society. And there is some questions that the public normally asks. What is the plan for the NDP? What has the NDP going to do for us? The NDP, they often tell you about the manifesto. It is one of the biggest buildings in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I am not bragging about the size of the building. I am not bragging about the color of the building. But coming into Kingston, it is the biggest yellow building. Going out to Kingston, it is the biggest yellow building. Before you meet that wicked building, this is the biggest building. You can go there and ask for manifesto. for all Vincentians who are listening and who is asking about our plans and the plans of the NDP, if you just go to the office, take 5 minutes out of your busy schedule and ask for a manifesto. Look, the NDP, I must commend the team that bring together the public speaking that is going to happen on the 28th of September. It is a good initiative. I have my pen and I have my paper already because I want to learn big words because young people know big words too. Young people know big words. Fits you and Manger. You know that two young people know big words. Sometimes when a young person attack you, and say, he really just think about that? He really just think about himself? So it is a good initiative to see that the NDP is going to have public speaking. And the public speaking will be held at, let me just pull it up for you. The public speaking will be held at St. Benedict Children Home in Mount Benedict, Spring Village. So everybody should come out in their numbers. If you're coming from Leeward, if you're coming from Bokomen, go by the road and stand up and say, this flag a ride. You must get a ride coming from Beckway. And you know that you're going to miss the boat the next day, come overnight. Because you know Dr. Freddy is a man that is up overnight. So come up all. When you see Freddy going on the boat, come up with heat. So we invite everybody come to Mount Benedict in Spring Village. And I must say to this, these, what I'm going to say is for the representative and the entire of NDP, right? You guys did a wonderful job with when it comes to this. This speaks volumes. And I invite people from north, south, east, and west. If you know the compass, just come around it. And we go down Spring Village and do it thing. And I must say again, thank you very much, guys, for always believing in young people and putting young people first. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you so much. And that takes me to a second, well, I shouldn't say second question, but another question. What should young people do if they consume?
Right. One of the things that I think what we're doing here tonight is very important. And this, I think this sets the stage for moving forward. I think we should seriously consider having similar awareness activities involving the young people. We could get them to come into the studio. We could have, there are different activities that we can undertake to have the young people directly involved. This is your future. The New Democratic Party continues to create hope for the young people, but the young people must also make that effort to engage, be inquisitive, and find out. And we in the New Democratic Party, we are relentless, I mean, the representatives, the caretakers, I mean, members of the executive, members of the different constituency groups. We are out there spreading the message. Don't believe the propaganda you're hearing from other people about young people and NDP. We have the young people in droves, and when the time comes, then the result of that will clearly be shown. So, but in terms of what young people can do, I think they need to engage. If you hear anything happening anywhere, any discussion, any consultation, and by the way, when we're talking about consultations, the 11th actuarial report, one of the recommendations is to have widespread consultations before even considering adopting any of these recommendations. And I'm not convinced that the government that they are undertaking extensive enough consultations. And I think we need to step that up. We here in the NDP, we're doing our own public awareness and enlightening and so on, creating opportunities for young people. But the young people must also make an extra effort, show that interest. And parents and adults also, we have to encourage. It's not a sexy topic. NIS is not a sexy topic. You won't get a young person to sit down and listen to you. So we have to come up with ingenious and creative ways of engaging them and getting them that information and letting them know how serious this is and letting them know that this is about their future. This is about their future and the country's future.
And concerning what we consider to be a crisis, how can we be sure that this won't happen again when it comes to the NIS? But tell you what, let's just take this caller and then we'll get back to that particular question. Good night, caller.
Good night, sweetheart. Good night to everyone in the panel.
Good night. Good night.
Okay. Well, just what this old lady have to say. I hoping that the young people them listening, because what I see and prove with the young people them in this country here, like they rather Budu Bam Bam and them coming more than they go and seek for the right and come out for the right and the justice. And whoever get in the work, have a work, they don't make a concern about who don't have a work and who don't get in a work. As long as Budu Boom Boom and them come in and they get to go jump up behind Budu Boom Boom and them. So if they want to take the sense from the head and put it down by their feet, they could go ahead. That is all I have to say tonight to them. Good night, you all. Have a blessed.
Good night. Good night. But you know.
I wanted to make a comment. You know, Gypsy asked a while ago, what can young people do if they're concerned? And as one of the young persons in the hierarchy of the NDP, and I mean, a young concerned person, one of the things I would encourage other young people to do is to get activated, get involved, let your voice be heard, because you can't sit down, remain concerned, and march on the spot. You know, Major will know what I mean when I speak as a man, a military sort of. Or if you're in the pathfinder like I was, you can't mark time because nothing is going to change. One of the things that you can appreciate as well is that, let's assume that you're now 19 years old and you decide to go to university. Your parents, you get an economically disadvantaged student loan and you go. Now, in the ULP manifesto, it said that on an economic disadvantaged student loan, you won't have to pay your interest whilst you study. Unfortunately, they broke that promise and you have to pay your interest whilst you're studying. Now, you have a student loan. How do you pay that interest whilst you're studying? Your parents, they take the money from their savings. They pay your interest of about $600, $700, $800 whilst you study. So their savings.
It might be the NIS money too.
Well, I'm going to make the connection to show you. So their savings is on the decline, right? Now remember, you come from an economically disadvantaged home. That's why you qualify for that loan. You get a loan of about $90,000. When you're finished studying, you're about 23 years old. We have a severe problem with employment in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So you probably come home and there's no job for you. So you're 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. So you're now 4 years without standard employment. Maybe you're trying things where you make a hustle here and there because you have ambition, but you don't have a standard form of employment, right? So you're now 27, which means you haven't started yourself to contribute to NIS. Your parents would have depleted their savings, and your parent is now around 60 looking for retirement. The savings that they would have had, they've depleted it paying your interest whilst you're studying. And they're hoping that having spent their interest, that spent their savings, that one of two things can happen. One, as a child, you show some gratitude and take care of your mother or father because they spent. But deep in your heart, you want to do it, but you can't because you don't have a standard job. Mm-hmm. And then your parent end up, it's pension time and there's no money and they already spend the savings sending you to school. You see the entire problem in how all of it connects. But at 25,
you also want to start your own family too.
Exactly. And so you're now in a bind where you find that you're not contributing to that fund so that it could grow because of the unemployment crisis. And chances are, God forbid, the way that the world is going, maybe a parent dropped down at 69, 70.
God forbid.
They get a death benefit and not a pension. So every time when people talk about how does it affect you as a young person, You have to think of the cycle of it. So maybe yes, you get pushed through school and you talk about a revolution, but it doesn't go full circle until you become a productive citizen where
Correct.
you're able to contribute. So I just thought that
but
I'm behind camera,
no,
but I thought I would
Lavon,
add.
you're also correct. But that same phenomena also contributes to a significant brain drain from civilians and Grenadines, because a lot of those scholars make the decision, it doesn't make sense coming back home at all. And so that some of the more productive people are now being exported, are not being available to you to help build the economy. And it's a vicious circle and cycle that we're talking about there.
Yeah, well, that's a good analysis, De Lavon. And to add to you, to Major, I think in the entire OECS, I think we have the largest percentage of out migration of young people.
6.1%.
People leave 6.1% of every 100,000.
Of every 100.
I think that's what it said.
That, yeah.
You know, so young people just leaving by droves, and then a lot of them who go away and study ain't coming back to begin with. You know what I mean? And it's all because of
with the new disciplines that St. Vincent needs.
Exactly. So it's a whole conundrum of so many issues that can compound this problem.
Yeah. But
I really
let's hold on that young people thing, because it is an area that NDP must drive for, and it's related to the one of the things that is cardinal sins of this government, this Unity Labour Party government, is that they effectively destroyed the National Youth Council once they came into office.
correct.
And that council should have been a rallying point for the young people. And what a lot of people are looking for the NDP to do for the young people should have been driven today by the leadership of the National Youth Council. Should have had them on the streets and should be advocating for them and directing them. And the government has the audacity, or the Prime Minister has the audacity, to establish a youth portfolio in his ministry and create a junior minister in his ministry to use his language under his suzerainty to speak for young people. Okay. Hijacks the scholarships for tertiary level. And again, he puts it under his suzerainty. So young people, you know, it's a catch-22. But there's a way out.
You see, and then the thing is, you know, I'm glad you touched on that, Major, because this whole issue of young people and you want to take that call?
Yes, let's just take this call. Good night, caller.
Good night to the panel.
Hello, good night.
Yes, I want to call and find out about the INS, right?
Speak up a little bit, please.
Can you speak up for us?
Okay, I used to be a contribution of the INS, right? Yes, I used to be a contributor of the INS. Right, okay, well, I call in half a ship, so that means the signal might be not too good.
We're hearing you.
Right. So I contribute from 1987 to 96. Then I migrate and go away to work. So I stopped. So now, what I want to know, I see now they're giving people INS money who don't make no contribution, right? I don't have no problem with that. But how you could give people who not show no money, and now people who show, them can't get nothing.
Well, we can't answer your question here no, but I understand the point that you're making. But in the very way you present your case, there's an interesting dimension of that, you know. The amount of money you throw, which is borrowed on the principles of a susu. That if you're a member of the same thing and you put in first hand and second hand, you must get it back, you know what I mean? But there's money there for you, so you haven't lost it. And just get somebody, some family to go and represent you. And you yet may be able, I don't know how old you are, I don't know the age group, what opportunity is left for you to top up your contributions, but you need to get somebody to go in and investigate on your behalf.
Well, I don't make up my mind on that film no more, so I'm not going to. Okay then, the next thing, I want to congratulate the Central Committee of South Windward NDP group. You know, that they had ready form all the group and ready. So I want to big up the group in Victoria Village, you know. And I know we're ready to work. And I'm coming home just now, so I'm ready to work with them.
Yeah.
And I say NDP me say.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, the feedback for those of us here that once we get everything in place, that so we're not only one of the constituency that will be coming back to the NDP fold after a long break from Bolton Williams. And we look forward to that. So good and outstanding.
Well, I know you might not know who's speaking in the board, Yellow Board Brother.
Who?
Yellow Board Brother.
Oh, all right. Yeah. I know. Well, I know the family. I know one of the brothers who was there with us in the last dam, you know. And another one was up on my face. But I know the family.
Yeah.
Okay. Yellow Board lives in my constituency as well. In Sharps there. Thanks again. Keep the faith.
Yes, so keep up the good work and
keep the faith.
And I must say I want to big up the woman down of the NDP, you know.
Yeah. All right.
Yes.
Thank you for your contribution, caller. Have yourself a wonderful night. All right. You know, I before we took several calls, because we took several calls, I was asking a question. How can we be sure that what is happening, the crisis in NIS currently, how can we be sure that that won't happen again?
Simple answer to that. You cannot put the ULP and party back in government. Simple and straight. Until the ULP government, the ULP party is removed from office, this will not change. Plain and simple. You know, you could twist it and turn it and interpret it however you want. Because it is because of their poor management of the NIS why the NIS is where it is right now. There's no two ways about it. And we in the NDP have already demonstrated. I mean, the ULP created this mess. They have to clean it up. We're not going to come and give them a plan how to clean it up. But we know we have ideas, and we will continue to talk about the issues in very measured and sensible ways. But we can guarantee you that when the New Democratic Party forms government, all of this mess that the ULP created with the NIS will not happen.
All right. Well said. In addition to that, tonight the topic was really about NIS and the youths in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We have one of the worst rates of youth unemployment in the Caribbean. How are we going to get that down?
Well, I think we have touched on it before, and we've been talking about this for the longest while. You have to create jobs. Yeah, and the only way you can create jobs is to generate economic activity that will employ people. Plain and simple. And Major, maybe this is a chance for you to put in the plug for the $50 million.
Well, I listened to a friend who I know. He's normally not good at staying up at night, but I'm sure he's up tonight listening to Major and Face on this program this morning. And thanks for giving my proposal some legs, my friend. He was taken to task the NDP for putting up a $50 million project. Now, he have no difficulty with government spending $135 million US down in Mount Wynn. He has no problem with $600 million at the port. 90 million of NIS money is out at Diamond, and the millions there. But immediately that the NDP speaks about $50 million for agro-processing and value-added activity, he has difficulties. Well, Fitz and myself were in the parliament the last election, and they tried to steal our ideas with the Saudi Arabian investments under a name that doesn't fit what the expense actually is going to be. And they have literally speaking included agro-processing, one on the countryside and one on the leeward side.
Yeah.
Coming around eventually to the ideas of the New Democratic Party. Now, I'm emphasizing one more time. we will spend $50 million for a bottom-up, people-centered approach by making sense of the agricultural resources that are at our disposal and processing them. Jams, pickles, juices, whatever it is. And the specializations too. The ginger, the turmeric, the sourshops, those are good for the health industry. And we have a plan of how we will do it. And we can drill down, tell about this. This includes road alignment. And clearly, if you're going to be competitive, it has to be equity finance. You don't want a debt strap of business that's trying to get off the ground to be competitive abroad. But you don't have to read and spell that. So why you want to have fair? When the Unity Labour Party came into office, the national debt was just around 400 million. They have added $2 million to it. You just call Ralph, he will be the first $1 billion man, you know. Well, he became the $2 billion man on the Friday. And if you let him go back there, he'll be the $3 billion man. So why do you feel that they could have access to all these sources of money from foreign embassies, from other programs? We're not solely hinged on that CBI program, but it's an important program that we could decide how we want to use it, whether it's for budget support or whether we want to use it for capital expenditure or for investment. But Bucket show that program can create over 10,000 jobs, that project of Vincentians. And we also say that's how we're talking about national insurance reform. There's also public administration reform. There's nothing wrong with the NIS that wants to have more contributors. They themselves put an agricultural unit inside of the NIS to distribute on an annual basis quantums of trees, and they may choose what they want to support to less than 10%, even 5% of the 42,000 member base to grow fruit trees, which in a short space of time can begin to produce produce to go to an agro-processing plant. Vinnet can do the same thing. You don't have to wait in the Ministry of Agriculture to do that. You have the extension unit inside of the department there, and we're giving away off. We have 48,000. If you take 10%, 5,000 of the people want to grow trees to support the plant and feed themselves, do the same thing. Water Authority can do that too. But we will drill down on those, and we'll speak more loudly about it with them. But you have to have creative juices and understand economic models and business models. Remember, you know, Gypsy, young people remember, it is firms that trade, not government.
Correct.
And you could only grow an economy and a society by growing the firms, not growing the government. Growing the firms, growing the business enterprises, and having people in the cabinet who know about business. Not one of them nothing about business.
Let's squeeze in one final call because we're out of time. Hello, good night, caller. Hello.
Hello.
I'm hoping that is booming.
Hello.
Caller, I'm hearing you.
Yes. Good night to my professor.
Yes, boy. What are you doing up this late Friday night?
I do. Nice contribution.
Edward King from Block 2000. Chairman of the Old Montrose Party Group.
What's up, P?
Yeah, nice contribution from you and Brother Fitz.
Yes.
Yeah, my brother.
Very excellent contribution. You see, and I don't know how people at this time is claiming that they don't know what NDP going to do and what NDP doing. If it when people like NDP, you wouldn't realize because maybe over and over you keep repeating this thing and pointing at it and enlightening people and educating people about the trouble that NDP is facing. But then you know that you know how that this problem could be solved is actually by increasing our jobs. And this party have no intention of doing it because more people become more poor is better for them. And I can't really see how some people just continue with this over and saying these ignorance. NDP is the party. And the only thing was Brother Fitz and you saying and others saying is to get rid of the ULP. Just make sure get rid of them. I'm calling upon the young people because I don't do my time now. I don't do my time. People enough have who never contribute to the NIS and still make a contribution, getting contribution from them, and who make can't get none. So I don't see the sense in that at all. I don't see the sense in that. Right? So thank you very much.
Let me say thank you and to let Gypsy know.
Yeah.
It may be coincidence that Fitz votes for me and I vote for him as East and Central representatives.
Yeah.
But we have an authority to speak to the youth and for on behalf of the youth because we can say what we did with our youth.
Yeah,
In
yes,
the fullness of his youth, he was a national sports representative in football and ambassador.
Mm-hmm.
Fitz was. I was an administrator in sports, a commandant of cadets, auxiliary police chamber of Corporals Employees Federation. He was an international civil servant. We didn't just suddenly acquire wisdom overnight. But what we are doing today and demonstrating this program is applying our hearts to wisdom.
Correct.
On behalf of the youth. And St. Vincent needs now more than ever a good mix of our youth and our experience to have the appropriate acumen to carry this country forward. That's what I want to say.
Yeah.
That's what we bring to the table.
A man like you as a professional businessman, know about business, structure business, and then brother Fitz as an economist. So we are on the right track.
Yep.
This is what we are to.
Yeah, brother P.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And you know they don't like to hear these ideas, because what Major talked about. I mean,
all right.
Good night, P. These ideas could be built out. I mean, I remember in 2020 when I campaigned, we talked about the Hope Project, helping our people excel. We want to capitalize like $250 million over 5 years. That hasn't been built out as yet for young people and creating up business opportunities for young people, you know. So when people are asking for NDP plan, and I guess you want to try to take this last call.
Well, let's try that. Good night, caller. Good night, caller.
Hey, good night. How you all doing?
We're wonderful.
Quite well.
Yeah. Good night, Major. Good night, Fitz. Good night, Gypsy. You know, one of the things, Major and Fitz, one of the things that get to me, and I say get to me, I hear people talking and pushing this narrative that NDP don't know what NDP doing and they don't know what NDP plans are. I met some youngsters, I coach footballers, you know, Major, into this thing. And I have some youngsters I coach and thing. And sometimes when I ask them, you know, you ever follow the NDP program? No. You ever listen to anything you read the manifesto? No. You know? But these are the same ones who will come and tell you what NDP doing for the country. Mm-hmm. You know, we ain't hearing nothing from them. They don't follow NDP. They don't listen to a program. They don't read anything. They don't go online. They don't check nothing. But they tell you they can't. And even some of the people on the radio stations, you know, when I listen to them in the morning sometime, I wonder if they drop out the sky. You know, what are NDP plans? What you planning to do? And you ask them, have you not listened? You follow anything? No, I didn't follow. I didn't hear. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're really ridiculous, man. The red Kool-Aiders have done a great job at blinding our youth, you know. You know, people, youth in this era here, a lot of them don't know anything about the NDP and what the NDP would have done in this country.
That is quite true.
And I think the NDP,
They do not even know whose name Sir James Mitchell.
Exactly. When I told one youngster, you know, the community college was started under the NDP, he tell me, nah, he never know that.
Exactly.
He never know that. But he is there jumping about and telling me, oh, Friday and them can't do anything and this and that and the other and the terror. They have created a beggar man syndrome in this country so much that you help somebody to get a work, Major. And they tell me, you want that kind of work, me prefer I get the $400 me get a poor relief. Young, strong people. That's where we have reached. That's where we have reached.
I listened this week with amusement on two comments from the tourism minister. One, we'll have increased cruise tourism. And that's a ferry boat that was supposed to be sinking.
You remember when Left and Lenny came, Glenn Jackson was on the radio? You remember that, right?
Secondly, we're bringing back our Best Village competition. Best Village who?
With a kill.
With the
destroyed
totally. You don't
totally.
believe in constituency development fund. You don't believe in empowering representatives to do more work for the youth.
No, but you want to get Best Village.
Local government. They want our Best Village competition.
Well, we really something else in this place, yeah.
But I will say that, you know, this should be an indication that we need to continue to and ramp it up, you know, and reach
yes.
the ones who sit in that hearing we gotta go after them and reach them.
Yeah,
as
let
well.
them
And
hear, let them
I
hear.
would like
Meet
to-
them where they are.
This
Exactly.
program, I want to see
Exactly.
some similar programs like this continue.
Targeted.
Bringing the young people, of course, targeted, but I want to see young people
In
coming in studio, or if we do an outdoor live or whatever it is,
And Q&A.
we ain't selling out the idea, we ain't letting the cat out the hat with the next Hope rally, but all of those things, man, we gotta continue to
Yeah, have a good night, guys.
All right,
Good program so far.
Thanks for calling.
Thanks. Okay, good.
All right, thank you so much, Major the Honorable Sinclair Leacock
Thank
and
you.
Parliamentary Representative for
Thanks to you
East
and
Kingstown.
yours.
Thanks, Gypsy.
Actually, we have to apologize because we have a program that should have started at 10.
Let me go before I
So,
get you off.
yes,
Good
indeed.
night, everybody.
Indeed.
Thanks for listening.
Good night, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, my friends in the diaspora and in the region. Good night.
That's no fun, no. Sure ain't no